Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. Buckle up, as it's a long one, and don't forget to listen to the end of the story to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, guys, and please like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Hey Reddit. I never thought I'd be in a position to write this, but here I am. I, 35 male, have been feeling a lot of emotions lately. Anger, betrayal, and I need some unbiased opinions. I'm going to try to lay this all out, but it's a long story, so bear with me. My family has owned a business for generations. It's a small manufacturing company that was started by my grandfather over 60 years ago. Growing up, the business was always a big part of my life. My dad, 65 male, took over when my grandfather retired, and it became his passion. I'm the eldest of 3 children, with a younger brother, 33 male, and a sister, 30 female. While I was always involved in the business, neither of my siblings showed much interest in it. My brother was more into tech, and my sister was a social worker. They both had their own paths, and that was fine. About 8 years ago, the business started to struggle. My dad wasn't keeping up with the times, and the company began losing money fast. He was resistant to change, refusing to upgrade the machinery, adopt modern marketing strategies, or explore new product lines. I was working elsewhere at the time, but it was heartbreaking to watch something that had been such a big part of our family start to crumble. My dad was too proud to ask for help, but it was clear he was in over his head. I decided to step in. I left my well-paying job to join the family business full-time. I knew it was a huge risk, but I believed I could help turn things around. I sat down with my dad and laid out a plan. We needed to modernize, cut down on unnecessary expenses, and target new markets. He was reluctant at first, but eventually he agreed. Over the next few years, I poured everything I had into the business. I worked long hours, often 7 days a week, to pull us out of the red. I secured loans, negotiated new contracts, and streamlined operations. I even put in my own savings, nearly everything I had, into the company to keep it afloat. It was a slow process, but we started to see some improvement. Within a few years, we were back in the black, and the future was looking brighter. I was proud of what we'd accomplished, and I felt like I had finally earned my father's respect. My siblings were still largely uninvolved, which I didn't mind. I wasn't doing it for them. I was doing it for the family legacy, and because I believed in what we could achieve. Things took a turn about 2 years ago when my dad decided he wanted to retire. I was more than ready to take over. I'd been running the day-to-day operations for years by then, and felt I was the natural choice. However, my dad had other ideas. He called a family meeting where he announced that he was dividing ownership of the company equally between the 3 of us: me, my brother, and my sister. I was shocked. My siblings had shown no interest in the business, contributed nothing to its revival, and had no understanding of how it operated. I tried to reason with my dad, explaining that I had been the one keeping the business alive and that a 3-way split would only complicate things. But he was firm, saying it was only fair that all his children get an equal share. My brother and sister, who had never cared about the business before, suddenly seemed very interested now that there was ownership at stake. What happened next was a complete nightmare. My siblings, emboldened by their new titles, started making demands and pushing for changes they didn't understand. My brother, with his tech background, wanted to pivot the company towards software, which made absolutely no sense given our resources and expertise. My sister wanted to use the company as a platform for social initiatives, which, while noble, wasn't financially viable for a struggling manufacturing business. They started overruling my decisions, leveraging their new ownership status to push through their ill-conceived ideas. I tried to make them see reason, explaining how the business worked and why their ideas were not feasible, but they wouldn't listen. They accused me of being controlling and refusing to adapt to new times. My dad, now officially retired, stayed out of the conflict, saying it was up to us to work things out. I felt like I was losing control of everything I had worked so hard to build. Things came to a head when my siblings decided they wanted to take out a massive loan to fund their new direction for the company. I was vehemently against it. We had just managed to get back on stable footing, and taking on more debt would have been catastrophic. They ignored my concerns and went behind my back to get my father's approval to use the company's assets as collateral. I was outvoted, and the loan went through. Predictably, their plans failed spectacularly. The new direction they were pushing for was a complete disaster. We lost several key clients, incurred massive debts, and morale among the employees plummeted. I tried to salvage what I could, but it was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. Every time I tried to implement damage control, my siblings would interfere, convinced they knew better. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to leave the company. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, but I couldn't stand by and watch them destroy everything I had worked so hard to save. I told my dad I was stepping down, and he was visibly upset, but I think he realized there was nothing more I could do. My brother and sister seemed almost relieved, eager to have free rein without my meddling. I walked away with nothing. All the money I had put into the business was gone, and I had no stake left in the company. I had given up years of my life, a secure career, and my savings to save the family business, only to be pushed out by my own family. I felt betrayed, hurt, and completely delusioned. That was a year ago. Since then, I've been trying to rebuild my life. I managed to get a job in my old field, and while it's been tough starting over, I've been managing. I've had little contact with my family since then, except for the occasional update from my dad, who still tries to keep the peace. And here's where things get interesting. The business, under my siblings' leadership, has been floundering. The massive debt they took on, combined with their poor management decisions, has driven the company to the brink of bankruptcy. Several of our longtime employees have left, and they've been struggling to keep the lights on. My dad has called me a few times, subtly hinting that they might need my help to turn things around again. My siblings, predictably, haven't reached out themselves, too proud to admit they messed up. A few weeks ago, I heard from a former colleague that the company was officially going under. My brother and sister are scrambling, trying to find investors to bail them out, but no one is willing to touch the sinking ship. And you know what? I feel a sense of satisfaction watching it all unfold. It's like karma is finally catching up with them. They took something I worked so hard to save and drove it into the ground, and now they're paying the price. I know it's petty, but I can't help feel a sense of vindication. I gave everything to that business, and they treated me like I was nothing. Now they're getting a taste of what it feels like to lose everything. My dad has been calling me more frequently, asking if there's any way I can find it in my heart to help them, but I've been ignoring his calls. Part of me wants to swoop in and save the day, to prove to everyone that I was right all along. But another part of me wants to let them drown in the mess they've created. My friends are divided on the issue. Some say I should walk away and let them deal with the consequences of their actions. Others think I should step in, not for them, but for the legacy of the business and the employees who might lose their jobs. I'm torn. I don't want to be the kind of person who takes pleasure in someone else's misfortune, especially when it's my own family. But at the same time, I can't ignore the fact that they betrayed me, pushed me out, and now they want my help? I've been thinking a lot about what to do next. Part of me wants to reach out to the employees who are still there and see if there's any way to help them without getting directly involved with my siblings again. But I don't know if that's even possible at this point. The other part of me just wants to let it all burn, to let my siblings see what it's like to fail and to live with the consequences of their actions. I feel like if I step in now, I'm just enabling their behavior. They made their bed. They should have to lie in it. But then there's the guilt of knowing that my family's legacy is at stake, that the business my grandfather built from the ground up could disappear because of this. And there's the guilt from knowing that people's livelihoods are on the line. My dad called me again last night, practically begging me to reconsider. He said he's worried about what will happen if the business goes under, that it will destroy our family, that my siblings are just kids who made a mistake, and that they need me to fix it. I told him I needed to think, but I could hear the desperation in his voice. I've been going over the numbers in my head, trying to figure out if there's any way to save the business at this point. It would take a lot of work and a lot of capital I don't have anymore. I'd have to convince the banks to extend credit, find new investors, and implement a whole new strategy to turn things around. It's possible, but it's a long shot. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for feeling this way? Am I wrong for wanting to let my siblings face the consequences of their actions? Should I put aside my pride and try to save the business one more time? Or is it finally time for me to walk away for good and let the chips fall where they may? It's understandable to feel a sense of satisfaction watching OP's siblings face the consequences of their poor decisions. They completely disregarded all OP's hard work and sacrifices and acted out of greed and ignorance. It's not OP's responsibility to keep bailing them out, especially when they haven't even apologized or acknowledged their mistakes. OP has done more than enough for the family business. If they want to save it, they need to learn to stand on their own 2 feet. Everyone sucks here. Your siblings for obvious reasons. They were naive and reckless. But I also think you might be letting your pride get in the way of making a decision that could benefit more than just them. There are other people involved here. The employees, the suppliers, even the community that relies on the business. If there's a way to help without getting back into the same toxic dynamic, maybe that's worth considering. You're the a-hole. I get that you're hurt and that you've been betrayed, but holding on to this grudge is only going to hurt you in the long run. The business is part of your family's legacy, and it sounds like it means a lot to you. Sometimes, taking the high road isn't about helping those who wronged you. It's about protecting something bigger than all of you. Maybe there's a way to save the business and still keep your distance from your siblings. Not the a-hole. Your siblings made their choices, and now they have to live with them. You're not obligated to save them from their own stupidity. They pushed you out of something you poured your heart and soul into, and now they want you to fix it? That's rich. Let them deal with the mess they created. If the business means that much to them, they'll figure it out, or they won't. Either way, it's not your problem anymore.
I was with my ex-boyfriend for 3 years. Wonderful, loving relationship, mostly. In April, I became pregnant with our first child. Unfortunately, that's when he was away for work. I told him over the phone, as we were in a long-distance relationship at that time, and he completely disconnected from me and said that he did not want a child. I understood his point of view, but I decided with him or without him, I was going to raise the baby. By 16 weeks, 4 months into my pregnancy, we were no longer talking and were broken up, but thankfully, I have a great support system. Fast forward to early November, we start talking again, work out our issues. He decides he's in this. He's still away due to his job, but we're making it work. Baby had other plans and came early. He was working in another state and was able to get leave to come see our baby, who was staying in a hospital in my state. I went to see her every day until I got very sick with strep throat and was not able to go see her for a few days, but did the best I could to keep in touch with the hospital. This is where the issue comes in. I had earlier been discussing with the hospital to have her transferred so she could have a heart surgery that isn't done where I live. So she'd have to go to a different hospital, a state over, to get it done. I did not give them the go-ahead as I wanted my partner at the time, her dad, to finally get to see her. I was feeling better. He had his time off work, so we go to the hospital to see her along with his mom, who I want to add has a very strong hold over him, to put it. We go, and I look like a total fool. Hospital says our baby is not there. His mom instantly freaks out and calls me crazy, says all these awful things to me. I tried to explain to her that they might have transferred her and to let the hospital call. Nope. She tells him that I'm a psycho that belongs in a mental ward and that I was never pregnant. I show my C-section scar. There's pictures of me pregnant, pictures of me with my mom holding my baby, and all proper birth documentation. She won't listen nor look, and he believes her. He walked out of my life and completely cut off contact with me. He went back to work in another state. I've contacted a lawyer regarding the hospital transferring my baby without my for sure go-ahead, and I don't particularly need advice on that. I need advice on how to contact my partner and tell him he does have a daughter that I want him to help raise. I'm scared of texting him honestly because I don't want him to get his mom involved even more. I'm devastated. He and his family have abandoned me and our daughter, and while my family and friends are amazing, I would love for him to be a part of her life. File for child support. Let him and his mother try to tell the judge that she is imagining the baby. You need to understand something here. This man took the quickest possible route out of your baby's life. He believed a ridiculous assertion, grasping at it like it was a life preserver. It is convenient for him to disbelieve you, and he will continue to do so no matter what you do in trying to contact him. The only way to get through to him is via the courts. He will not come around about this on his own, because doing so is inconvenient. Stop kidding yourself that this man is ever going to take an interest. But your daughter deserves his financial support, and it is up to you to make certain she gets it. Some background. My sis and I grew up in an abusive house. The A came from my stepmother, who was her actual mother. Stepmom homeschooled us to avoid more people detecting the A. She wasn't actually teaching sis and me anything. She was just A-ing us. I got out when I was 18. I had a really tough time after I left home. I didn't know anything about the outside world, but I found jobs and eventually made friends, and even got married and had a little boy. When she turned 18, sis followed me out. She is 9 years younger than me and even more damaged by her mother than I am. I was homeschooled for 6 years, but halfway through what should have been my high school years, she decided she was sick of me in the house and enrolled me as a freshman in high school. Sis was homeschooled her entire school life. I and my husband took her in. I had been dreaming of helping her escape stepmom for years, but I can't fix a lot of what is wrong with her. Sis can barely even read. She doesn't know half of what a normal adult person should know. She has a crippling fear of leaving the house. Once she got the hang of the internet, she has kind of gotten addicted to games and Facebook. To be fair, the same thing happened to me, and I still struggle with it. We tried to put her in college, but she could not keep up and had to drop out. She's gotten jobs, but ends up quitting all of them. Sis lived with us for 3 years. During that time, my marriage deteriorated. My husband lost his job and got on unemployment. I had 2 jobs and was the only one working while sis watched my sons. A lot of crap went on, and my marriage was basically over for about a year before we called it quits. We were living with my husband's mother due to lack of money when my sister became pregnant. She was 5 months before she started to show and told me about it. She said it was a boy she had met at school before she dropped out. She said he moved back home to Florida and she didn't know his last name. I urged her to look for him to help pay child support, find out his family's medical history, give her kid a dad, etc. But she insisted she wanted to raise her baby by herself. My husband said we couldn't be living with his mom if my sister had a baby as well as our 2 kids. He went out and got a job. He found us an apartment. We were moving in 1 month. I was overjoyed. This was the most initiative he'd shown in nearly a year. Then I started talking to an old ex of his who had recently gotten a divorce. The talk was all on the phone, large amounts of it in front of me. I thought he was just helping her through a rough time, but the day before we were due to move into the new apartment, he told us he wasn't coming with us. He wanted a divorce so he could be with his ex. Sis and I moved into the apartment with my boys. We couldn't really afford it without my husband's job. Life was rough and got harder when she had the baby, so I urged her again to look for the father, and she reacted strangely. Some of the things she said did not match up with what she said before. I had an awful suspicion. Sis, it wasn't ex-husband, was it? She bolted. She ran from me and hid in a closet, cowering, like she thought I was stepmom. She has broken my heart into pieces, and I just don't know what to do. I thought I was over losing my husband, but learning that he cheated on me with my sister has broken that wound open again too. I would never hit her. I am so angry, and I just can't stop crying for almost 2 weeks now. I can barely function at work. I don't want to hold my niece, stepdaughter, whatever, and I don't want to look at my sister's face, but being that she doesn't have a job, she is always there at home. I want to tell my friends, but I'm too ashamed. If I kick my sister out, she will have nowhere to go but back to stepmom. I can't do that to her and my niece, but I can't live with them either. I don't know what to do. Edit. The last few times I've dropped the kids off, I haven't stayed to talk to my ex-husband at all. I don't know what to say to him. I think I should be angry, and all I feel is pain. I do not feel ready to confront him or to be able to say what I need to say when I do. I have been trying to have a friendly relationship with him for the sake of our boys. They need their father in their life. Or I thought they did. Now I don't know. I still have feelings for him too. They come and go. Until I found out he is my niece's father, I thought if I ever wanted to get back together and work on it, I would. But now we never can. This is something I can never get over. I will try and help my sister more. Even when I wrote this, I already knew I could not kick her out. She is more like my child than my sister. I cared for her from the time she was born until I left home, and leaving her behind was my biggest regret. I wish she could get a job, but now with the baby there would be no one to watch her, and my sister does childcare for my boys as well, since I work 70+ hours a week. My ex-husband and his wife and his mother help care for the boys, but not the baby. If she wants to acknowledge him as the father, maybe that could change, but so far she does not. And if he did her, then I don't think it would be good for her to. And even if not, I don't think it's good to force her and take away her choice like that, since she needs to be more independent. Sis can be surprisingly stubborn about things she doesn't want to do, too, so I don't even know if I could make her sign something she doesn't want to sign. Besides all that, we got her 7 different jobs in the 3 years before the baby, and none of them stuck. I don't have any friends left who might hire her or ask their manager to hire her. I would love to get her therapy, but all of our money after rent goes to diapers, wipes, and formula. There is zero money left. All our food comes from EBT, WIC, and one of my jobs. I have bought 1 new bra in the past 8 months, and the kids some clothes at a yard sale. Nothing else. The baby doesn't even have many clothes, since she grew out of the newborns. She just wears a diaper, and we usually wrap her in blankets to go out. I get toilet paper, shampoo, toothpaste, and deodorant through friends and my ex-mother-in-law. I will try and find out the truth of what happened. Sis already said she doesn't want to involve the police, and I don't either, until I know what really happened. I don't want to falsely accuse my ex of anything, and I've never seen him be controlling like she describes. She never seemed scared of him or tried to avoid being alone with him at all when we lived together. Many times she would tease him, joke with him, or tickle him. They played WoW together. But if he did, I think we should involve police. But if she won't press charges, then there's nothing I can do on that either. I will go home and try to talk to her and get a straight answer. Update. So I forgave my sister. She and my niece, Helen, still live with me and my sons. I accepted that the mental pressure Sis described my ex-husband putting on her equals R. She has not changed her story again. But she is still unwilling to go to the police about it, and I doubt she will ever want to. I still feel a lot of hurt over the whole thing, and it's still pretty much a secret. I've told a few of my closest friends, but I haven't talked to my ex about it at all. He still doesn't know that I know. I don't even know who all in his life knows. Does his mother? Does his new wife? We did start referring to Helen as the sister of my sons. They're too young to know what that implies or ask many questions. And even though I have forgiven Sis as best I can, I still get flashes of resentment towards her. For one thing, we have always talked about how we were when we were younger together. Like, remember when stepmom did this or that? Since I sat her down and told her I believe her about my ex and the blackmail, she has acted just as casually about using the word R to describe what went on those 3 years. And it still really hurts me, because I guess I still don't see how she laughed and acted affectionate towards him and me all that time with never a hint of being and now she is able to seem so self-righteous and victimized. I finally asked her to stop talking about it so much if she isn't willing to go to the police. And I feel guilty about that, since maybe it is impeding her healing process. But I just can't do it, especially when I am the one crying and she isn't visibly feeling bad when she brings it up. She is my sister, and I love her, and I have chosen to believe her. But it seems like I don't love and trust her unconditionally anymore, and my emotions don't fully believe her. I am all out of trust these days anyway. A lot of times, I feel like life isn't even worth living anymore if it weren't for my little boys. We have gone through a lot of changes in the last 6 months, some good and some bad. I couldn't find a free therapist except for some phone services, but I found one for $30 a session based on my income. I went several times, but I didn't really like the lady, and we never really got past what happened in my childhood to what was happening today, and they said I couldn't switch within that group. And it was a strain financially, so I just stopped. Sis didn't want to go, but I pretty much forced her to call a assault hotline. I didn't listen, but I could tell afterwards she had been crying, and she didn't want to do it again. I got Sis a job at one of my jobs, which is a hotel. I am a front desk. At first, she did housekeeping, and then moved to front desk too. The manager was letting us stay in a room with the kids while the other one worked, since it was impossible to drive our one vehicle and pick up the person relieving you the next shift and still cover the front desk. And a lot of times, that turned out into one day or more, what with my other job and all. When our lease was up in December, the manager was nice enough to say we could live in our room full time. We don't have to pay any money. Several of the housekeepers live like this too. The only thing is, the hotel is really kind of a scary place. It is extremely low priced with extended stay options. It is filled with people who can't get credit approved or an apartment, S-workers, people doing D deals, and on the weekends, ghetto clubbers. The room we are staying in is out of order for regular guests, which is why we are allowed to have it. And though it is bigger than a lot of hotel rooms, it is still 5 people crammed in here together. There are roaches and other bugs really bad, in the whole hotel, not just our room. I feel bad for allowing my boys to stay here. I feel scared for them, both that they or we might get hurt, and for what they will learn from the guests at a place like this. Also, something bad had happened last year. I couldn't afford insurance for us for several months, and the insurance company cut us off. Now, my ex wants custody of them. Right now, he has the right to see them every other weekend, but he and his family watch them a lot more than that already. He wants to switch them so that legally I can see them every other weekend. But he says I'll be able to see them anytime, as long as it's not too late on a school night. The main reason is through his wife's new job at a school, they will have health insurance, but they have to live with him and be in his custody for this to happen. His new wife has 2 other kids, and I know she is a good mom. I know for my son's sake I should probably do it. But I'm so scared that even if I get in a better financial situation, he will never give them back. Level-headed internet strangers, what should I do? It's time for your sister to inform the state of the true identity of her child's father, so that he will be paying child support for Helen as well. That might just be the bump in income you need to get all of you out of that place and into a better environment. Also, do not give up custody. Things like that have a permanence. You fight like hell to get them back after your situation improves. Do not trust your ex in the least when he plays the "it's better for them" card.